In this video, we're going to be talking about technological trends in library resources, starting off with a quick overview of the ecosystem as it stands now. So think about what makes Google so popular as a searching tool. It's because you can get pretty much anything you want in a single search, right? Well, as librarians, we know that there isn't necessarily one search to rule them all. But if you really want to see how Google works, there's a great explanation. It's a pretty complex algorithm. So there are several shortcomings when it comes to searching Google. There's, of course, the fact that you're frequently pulling back inherently biased materials, given the problematic nature of floating sponsored results at the top, and the fact that the search algorithm looks at popularity of how often something is linked, not necessarily how valid it is. But what I'm really talking about is the fact that when you're searching, you find that perfect piece of research. When you try to click through to get it, bam, you hit a paywall. The response from libraries has been try to step in as a mediator, try to provide a single search experience while tying in all the resources to which you're already spending money on for tuition, and in the case of UMass Amherst, we're a state school, so taxpayer money. This is called the discovery layer. Essentially, a discovery layer sits on top of aggregators, which contains databases, which contains articles, book chapters, other electronic resources that the researcher is going to want to access. As you can see, there are many options available to choose from in terms of discovery layers, and each one boasts over the other that you can discover more of your content with a single search. Essentially, they're all as good as the configuration that you put into the back end and the databases that you're pulling content from. All too often, researchers will receive false positives when searching. A discovery layer tells them that they can access something that isn't actually available. It may be held up in embargo, or your subscription year doesn't cover what they're looking for, or depending on your configurations, it may look like it's present at your library, but really is somewhere else in the world that they can't get hold of easily. The list goes on, and it can take a lengthy bit of detective work to suss out what the problem really is. In addition to paid content sources, your institution probably also has some local resources, such as an institutional repository for faculty publications, an archive of theses and dissertations from alumni, possibly retrospectively digitized, or special collections unique to your library. These sources likely contain really amazing materials, but without a little bit of extra effort, they may not be immediately discoverable to your constituents. So what am I talking about in terms of these extra special arrangements? The Open Archives Initiative Protocol for Metadata Harvesting, OAI-PMH, and I'm sorry, there's no better way to pronounce it, maybe, is a protocol developed for harvesting metadata descriptions of records so that services can be built using metadata from many different archive sources. Discovery services can all plug into these archives using OAI-PMH, assuming that the archive supports it. Most of them do, unless you're building something homegrown or working with something really weird. It sounds simple, but the devil truly is in the details here, particularly around field mappings and access rules. But if you can get it properly configured, this is a powerful way to bring your school's unique resources into the search results. As textbook costs continue to rise, along with the cost of tuition, fees, and everything else for attending higher ed, teachers and librarians have been looking for ways to help alleviate the burden to students. So, enter open educational resources. These are educational materials and resources offered freely and openly for anyone to use under some licenses, remix, improve, redistribute. They include several different kinds of content, such as the learning content, which could be full courses, course material, content modules, learning objects, collections, journals. They can include tools, software to support the creation, delivery, use, and improvement of open learning content, including searching and organization of content, content and learning management systems, content development tools, and online learning communities. And they can also include implementation resources, open property licenses to help promote open publishing of materials and design principles, and localization of content. Now, all the resources in the world won't do us much good if we can't actually use them in support of teaching, learning, and research. The traditional ways of providing curricular support have been course reserves and research guides, or pathfinders in the really old parlance. These were originally paper-based systems, but both have continued on as practices in the digital world. Electronic course reserve systems allow faculty to place specific articles, chapters, other digital assets into a protected space for their students. By going through the library, the faculty can ensure that materials are properly licensed and that they're accessing materials that the library has already paid for, and that copyright is respected. Materials are only available to students enrolled in the course, preventing unlicensed downloading. This is especially useful in cases of digital audio and video where license holders can be, shall we say, a little militant about protecting their copyright. Whereas course reserves provide a way for faculty to make required and supplementary material available to their students, course research guides are typically compiled by librarians around either a general subject area or a specific course research project. This can be done in conjunction with faculty or just out of the experience and expertise of library staff, knowing what kind of questions they get at the desk from time to time. The most common platform for this nowadays is LibGuides by SpringShare, but it's by no means the only option. Now, your faculty may be discovering and even producing open educational resources on their own, but chances are at least some of them are going to need a little bit of help. There are multiple OER repositories out there, and if your library isn't maintaining a list of them, you can probably turn to a peer institution for their list. So, shameless plug here. Feel free to check out what the University of Massachusetts Amherst is doing around open educational resources. We are considered to be a bit of a leader in the field. So great, you've got these resources and materials electronically ready to go. How do you actually get them in students' hands? Most courses these days, even those offered entirely in person, have an electronic component using the campus's Learning Management System, or LMS. There are many different platforms out there for LMSs, but the most prominent ones include Blackboard, Moodle, Sakai, and Canvas. Again, there are tons of others. It really depends on what your institution is using, but these are sort of the four of the major ones that are out there right now. So, using these systems, there are sort of two main ways of getting library resources into them. One, faculty can work with the librarians to help build the course together. This takes a little bit of extra work. And the other is to use LMS plugins or extensions to pull in content automatically from library systems. Now, option one would be ideal, since it embeds librarians directly into instruction, and librarians can engage in backward teaching, where goals are established first, rubrics constructed, and faculty teach to the rubric. However, depending on the size of your institution and the temperament of your faculty, accomplishing this widely may be difficult to impossible. We would also be remiss here not to mention that libraries engaged in these courses as instructors should understand the course content well, in addition to knowing and having expertise with curriculum development. Side note here, Sarah wanted me to be sure to mention that please do not ever let the term bibliographic instruction escape your lips during a job interview. That's it. You're done if you do that. So, just heads up there. So enter option two. Most LMSs have support for extending their functionality with plugins or modules or blocks or whatever you're going to call them to bring in data from library systems directly. Using the Learning Tools Interoperability, or LTI, a specification developed by IMS Global Learning Consortium, you can make library content available to a wide range of LMSs. This will still require software on the LMS's end to receive and process the data, but the library should, in theory, be able to produce just one LTI-enabled endpoint per system that's being integrated. I say in theory, of course, because despite having been around for years and being a de facto standard, LTI is not universally or consistently implemented among all LMSs, and there's going to be some assembly required depending on the systems you're trying to use. Libraries, of course, also support research, and there are a number of ways to help researchers manage the materials that they find. First off, citation management tools are a major way to help researchers keep what they find organized and accessible. The prominent tools in citation management are RefWorks, which is recently being purchased by ProQuest, EndNote, owned by Thomson Reuters, Mendeley, developed by Elsevier, and Zotero, an open source system. Discovery systems may also include a means of having favorites for your search results or anything. Anyway, all of these different systems work differently, but they all support a standard file format called RIS for import and export. So the interoperability between them is usually pretty good. You may lose some special features if you're trying to migrate from one to the other, but overall, it's a pretty easy ecosystem to work in. Depending on the configuration of your discovery system, your researchers may find the perfect book or article, only discover that you don't actually have it at your library. It may be available at another institution in your consortium, or via interlibrary loan. It may be cheaper or quicker to just buy it from a local bookseller or from Amazon. There are lots of creative ways to fulfill a researcher's requests, which we're not going to go into here. Ask your interlibrary loan librarian for their best story. I like to evaluate fulfillment, the researcher getting the material, on three factors: distance, time, and money. The perfect material may be available at another library within driving distance, and I could get there faster than it would take to request it. It might be embargoed for a few months, but included in the library's offerings after that, so I can just wait it out. I might be able to buy it from the publisher, from a third party. We can get a hold of just about anything in this day and age if we're willing to cover the distance, wait, or pay. It's really a matter of determining how important is this research material to what you're doing right now. What's the balance point? Where are you willing to invest travel, time, or money? One final area of emerging research support to cover: data management. Researchers are producing data, sometimes quite a lot of it, and many grant funding agencies, such as the National Science Foundation, require a data management plan in their applications. While in some ways this may seem like the next logical step for an institutional repository, the complexities of storing data, which can be very large and sometimes not human readable, really make it its own beast. Don't have much more to say about this aside from expect to see more of this in the future. The library is positioned to take a very prominent role in data management for the campus. So if this is something you want to specialize in your career, you certainly have some potential for work there. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch these videos. We hope they provided you with some very interesting ideas for discussion, and we look forward to seeing you. Well, I guess we won't see you, will we? I look forward to hearing your questions at the Q&A session next week. Take care.